So let's say you want to go for it, and bully for you, because crowdfunding can be tremendously powerful, a fantastic way to create opportunity for businesses of any size or projects or efforts of any size. Well, the first piece begins with choosing the right crowdfunding site. And there's more than Kickstarter. Like we said, there's over 500 at the moment, not 500,000. There may well be once you get some serious dollars involved. Not that $10 million raised isn't serious so far. But the first and most important piece of it is the discoverability challenge. Seek, scale, and visibility. It's one thing to create value. You absolutely, positively have to be creating value at every turn, but you also have to be communicating that value as well. This is the classic tree falling in the forest problem, right? What happens if you go to Apple's App Store? You see that there are thousands of products that may have 5-star ratings. Maybe the best app you have ever seen. Maybe revolutionary. Just one problem. When it's buried, when it's not on that top seller chart, is anybody downloading it? So does it count? Same thing with crowdfunding campaigns. The more attention paid, the more it's going to be harder to stand out. So find a site that gives you that availability. Target your audience. Absolutely no upfront with razor-sharp focus. Who you're going after, where they live online, and what type of sites they use. Not just crowdfunding sites, because there are sites devoted to every niche, from film to technology, startups, and real estate, but also know where you can find them online and how you can activate them. Reduce friction. Fancy way of saying in the marketing business that if my conversion rate, which means that the number of people I can get to take an action, is only a small fraction of the total number that I'll ever reach, how do I then make sure I'm reducing friction or removing the number of action steps in between them and the desired result? So just because I can get my campaign in front of you doesn't mean I can actually get you to dip into your pocketbook. That's a big issue. And in advertising, those rates can be as low as 1% to 3%. So hey, you know, even if it was 10%, which would be ginormous, right? That would mean I'd have to reach, what, 10,000 people just to get 1,000 people to donate? So there's a scale challenge here as well. So try and find sites, and as much as we may malign Kickstarter and say it's too general interest, you know, if I don't have to input my credit number, sign up for an account, how many steps am I removing between the end user and the result that I'm trying to create? Really, you want to create that call to action, that sense of urgency, and remove the steps between them. And you need to assess value-added opportunities. Some sites like Rocket Hub, for example, will have what they call launchpad opportunities. They'll actually let you, if you're a musician, get in front and play for a real-world panel of music industry heavyweights. Or if you're an artist, they can get your showing in a real-world gallery. So you can have powerful opportunities. Even if you're not able to raise crowdfunding awareness online, you may be able to get in front of the right people in the real world, and whether your campaign succeeds or fails, still create win conditions and opportunities. And of course, you need sites that give you powerful tools and analytics. You need to be able to monitor and observe your campaign. Find out which rewards are clicking with people. Is your pricing right? What are people asking about your project? And you need to respond based on that in real time. That's the beauty of marketing. No marketing campaign today that operates in the real world, no good one that is, ever remains static. So you see, you try, you experiment, you iterate, you react, and fans will absolutely tell you. You will see. You may design rewards at specific tiers, and you may find that the $50 one is selling more than the $75, which means maybe we need to add more value at the $75. We may find out that our messaging is not connecting. People are asking questions, and they're questions we thought we answered in the pitch. So based on their feedback, we need to be able to update and refine that on an ongoing basis. Of course, you also need to make sure, is it a site that will let you keep the money if you fail? Is 80%, 90% of your goal, is that a failure? I'd like to think not. I'd like to think you did pretty well. You never know why people didn't invest, why you didn't manage to pull it across the finish line. But at the end of the day, some sites, Kickstarter for example, won't give you the money if you don't reach that 100% goal. So think about that when you're choosing a crowdfunding site. And of course, if you can, pick a platform that leverages existing fan and creator support. And by that, what I mean, if you have people who are well known in the crowdfunding industry, people who have launched successful campaigns with similar projects or products, they may have a following, an audience that they can help promote you to. And that can be extremely powerful because it helps you reach a targeted, focused market. And of course, you may, if you happen to have an existing relationship with customers, if you have a strong mailing list, 10,000 people, active subscribers, your own website can be very powerful too. And understand that after the campaign, goes through its duration, you're going to have post-launch activities. So you need a site that gives you the tools to be able to process reward fulfillment, to be able to migrate users to a dedicated online HQ, because at the end of the day, yes, we may have indiegogo.com/Scott/1234.html, but I guarantee you scottsproject.com is a lot easier to rally people behind. So you're going to have an ongoing conversation, keep people appraised as to what's going on with your project, and of course be able to grab their addresses, make sure they're getting their rewards and their equity. Now, what are some of the common killers of crowdfunding campaigns? Well, they're similar to some of the common killers of businesses in the world today. And one of the biggest ones is the failure to convey unique value proposition and features. In other words, the big rule is you gotta be singular, gotta stand out at a glance. And part of this is perception. It's how you package and present yourself. So if your vision isn't clearly defined, if it's not clearly presented, if people can't figure out at a glance what it is you're offering, and you can't convince them that you've got a strong plan of attack, then chances are they're not going to be willing to invest in you. So you need to be very clear. Don't leave it ambiguous. Don't get cute. Keep it simple. It's not that complicated. Make it as obvious as possible. Get the key messages in there up front, and you'll increase your chances of success exponentially. So, lack of awareness, proven talent, brand, again, track record speaks volumes, especially if you have a person, a product, a brand that has a reliable track record, that's got a built-in following already, that you can activate. Might as well stack the deck. That helps you. That can give you awareness. That can help you give an audience that you can then activate, who are much likelier to click on things and take the actions you want, and much likelier to spread the word. And inability to connect with a community or activate backers. Okay, it's a communications challenge. Let's call a spade, right? At the end of the day, you are competing with hundreds, thousands of different other projects, and you're trying to create visibility. You're trying to get people to know that you're out there. You're trying to keep them talking about your project for the duration of the campaign. You're trying to keep a sense of momentum going. You're trying to make sure that they will actually then dip into their funding and give you a piece of the pie. And at the same time, you're also trying to create a connection with them, an emotional resonance, and you're trying to really move the needle. So again, it helps if you've got a community already existing. Don't be afraid to do initial outreach, to touch people and say, we're going to think about doing a crowdfunding campaign. We're talking about this. Tell your friends and family. It's going to kick off on this date, and we want your support. Secure as much support up front as you can get. I would also tell you that poor reward structures and pricing, these can be a killer of campaigns. So like I was saying, you have to react, you have to innovate, you have to iterate, you have to make sure you're listening to fans. They'll tell you if they're getting enough value, and you have to incentivize at every possible pledge tier, even the lowest. What's in it for them? That's what matters. Discoverability, like I was saying, that's a big piece. We've gone into that, so I won't dive too much into it. But trust or authenticity. Again, they got to believe that you need the money, and they got to believe that it's going to a good cause. Most of the time, when you move somebody in the internet to spend their money, if it's not a get-rich-quick scheme or a Ponzi, and you're not promising the world, usually you're creating an emotional connection. You're telling them that a dollar that you put in is going to create positive change. It's going to add up to a net effect. There's a reason why the people who run those commercials that say 20 cents a day will feed this child hold up the picture and give you the adoption card. They connect action to end result. They show that you have the power to create positive outcomes. And that's similar here. You can do that too by building that level of trust. And of course, failure to listen to fans and incorporate their feedback. Got to pay attention. Listen to what your audience is telling you. That's the key, right? We talk about communications as businesses and brands. And what we forget is that a conversation, a dialogue, works two ways. It's not a one-way street. So you got to listen to what they have to say, and you got to refine and react based upon it. And of course, unrealistic scope, timing, funding goals. Again, I would tell you, be as conservative as possible. So if you want to figure, we always say, whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's cost structure, whether it's manpower, give yourself a 30% cushion. But always strip things down as bare as you need them. You've heard about the lean startup philosophy. If you have to, get a napkin or a piece of paper out there, jot down every feature, every component of your campaign, every cost, and then strip them back to their bare essentials. Okay? The more attainable it seems, the more likely people are going to be willing to contribute. And of course, a failure to create a sense of urgency or a call to action. So oftentimes we'll be investigating things on the computer, we're playing around, we're researching, we say, hey, today I want to find out about this subject. And the problem is we get distracted. And like I was saying about friction, every potential stumbling block, every distraction, every new action we place in the path is another obstacle or hurdle we have to overcome. So again, make sure you make people understand every vote, every dollar that you contribute counts, but it needs to happen now. And you need to tell them why it needs to happen now. You need to make them understand that urgency. And you need to be able to sustain momentum. One of the great glib phrases we like to throw out there is crowdfunding is a marathon. It's not a sprint. All too often, you hear stories from creators, their campaign skyrockets out of the gate, and then 48 hours later, you can hear the crickets chirp. So think about, from a marketing and public relations perspective, what are you going to do to keep that conversation going? How are you going to reignite buzz? What are you going to have planned to create those inflection points over a 4, 6, 8-week horizon, however long your campaign lasts, that keeps people talking about it, let alone makes them want to come back and take a second look? Now, if you wanted to plot a successful campaign, let me tell you, it starts with research. It may look easy on the surface. A lot of these campaigns look gorgeous. They're well put together. The pitches sound great. People seem entertaining. What they won't tell you, especially the ones that raise millions of dollars, is they spent weeks practicing up front. Many public speakers won't tell you. Believe it or not, these keynotes, they don't suddenly come together fully formed. We're good. We are good. But oftentimes we're not that good. Practice, refinement. Practice that elevator pitch. Don't be afraid to try it out on friends and family. Get it down pat. See what they say. Ask spouses. Make sure you get that feedback so you've polished it up front. Got to have a compelling snapshot. Got to have a compelling description. Got to have compelling screenshots, videos. People are very visual creatures, right? You heard the phrase, hey, so-and-so has a great personality. Are those usually the people that we walk up to first at the dance club? Probably not, right? People have a tendency, we accept what we see at face value. So even if you're on a tight budget, if you're going to double down anywhere, if you cannot afford to cut costs, don't cut them with regard to presentation. People will judge the perceived quality of your brand and of your venture based on what they see. And of course, eye-catching rewards and pricing, reasonable funding goal, we talked about these. Marketing and PR campaign with a running activity mix. Okay, again, begins with planning. Understand over a long-term horizon how you're going to continue each and every day to do public or consumer outreach or investor outreach, and understand that not every day is going to be filled with headlines. But you do have to think about 3 days in, 8 days in, 2 weeks in. What can I do to reignite conversation and get people to come back? So that means you have to have a running mix of activities planned up front. You may not consider yourself a marketing genius, but the good news is, even if it's just announcing new features, announcing new videos, tapings of the product or project in motion, getting notable personalities or thought leaders in your field to contribute, these are all things that can be created in advance. Just understand up front the commitment that you're making. And of course, it encapsulates post-launch activities as well. So to have a successful campaign, can't just take their money. Customer service. Got to make sure you honor your investors, make sure they feel well treated, make sure you're in constant communication. We call these brand evangelists. These are the people who want to see you succeed and are going to be among your most powerful drivers for word of mouth. So pre-launch planning comes down to having your concept, your goals, your overall elevator pitch refined. Like I was saying, can't afford to be shy in this case. Test it out. See with strangers if you can affect the action that you're looking to get them to take. Does it make sense? Is it resonating? Ask. Don't be afraid. And you're going to have to go through several iterations before you hit on the right one. I would also say that you need to identify your target audience. So again, don't just know what magazines they're reading. Understand, are there online communities? Can you reach them through TV, radio? Traditional advertising not been a powerful driver of crowdfunding campaigns to date. But you need to think about who you're trying to target and where they'll be. Are they on Facebook? Are they on Twitter? They may be in multiple places. So understand how you're going to reach them, and then what are you going to do to activate them? And by that I mean incentivize. What's in it for them? Are we holding a contest? Everybody who retweets this is entered to win an iPad are we going out there and say, hey, look, we're bringing back a franchise that no publisher would touch with a 10-foot pole, one of your favorite book series, one of your favorite movies, one of your favorite video games. We're going to do it, but we have to do it now. And if we don't prove it now, no publisher will ever touch this with a 10-foot pole. So think about it, again, not what's in it for me, what's in it for them. Incentivize at every level. And of course, I would also say, consider your prospective audience size and conversions. Okay, so here's a fun one. We were talking about that marketing funnel before. It looks like an inverted triangle. Starts wide, sorry, microphone juggling many things, and comes down to a fine point at the bottom. And that fine point at the bottom, for everybody you reach at the top, these are the ones you're actually going to activate. Tim Schafer, famous video game designer, just to give you an example, this guy raises $3.3 million in February for what he calls Double Fine Adventure. Now, this is a guy who, in the early days of home computing, created some of the most beloved point-and-click adventure storytelling games. Millions of kids grew up with these. He raises $3.3 million for his new adventure game on Kickstarter, and he does it from 80,000+ backers. Seems pretty impressive, right? Except here's a guy who's got tremendous street cred, massive track record, and his games were seminal experiences for millions of people, and he activates only 80,000+. Raises a significant amount of money, but if you think about his capacity to move the needle, to create visibility, to build trust, again, only a small percentage of the overall people that his products and projects touched over the years. So understand that and be conservative when you're doing your estimates. And of course, I would also say, again, financial goals, cushions, 20–30%. Get as much in there as you can, whether it's time, budget, manpower, shipping dates. Figure out what the optimal campaign duration is for you. Again, you got to create that sense of urgency, but if you need 45 days to bring it together, if you feel you've got the wherewithal, then do it. Do what feels right for the project. Maybe 30 days. Maybe 8 weeks. There's no real stat. I've seen stats that say, well, you know, those are their 30 days versus 45 days, or maybe 5% more likely to succeed. At the end of the day, do what feels right and what you have the resources and energy to sustain. And of course, plan your rewards up front. And when I say plan your reward structure up front, don't just know what you're offering and how much you're going to price it at. But if you are offering physical merchandise or anything that has a fulfillment cost attached, understand that what you think the fulfillment cost may be may not be what the ultimate fulfillment cost may be. If a supplier is late with delivering parts, things are shipping delays, there's disasters, there's other issues you have to deal with, may wind up costing you a lot more. And actually, we spoke to the guys who did the Designing Obama art book, and they were saying, hey, you know, we made it, we did it on time, everything looked great, but try shipping a 50-pound art book, 500 of them, through the Chicago post office. You show up and they do not know what to do. So understand some of the challenges that are there. And make sure you've prepared your promotional assets and a pipeline for creating new ones in advance. So while you're involved in this all-consuming campaign where you're constantly trying to create noise, outreach, connect with people, that's not when you want to be scrambling to put together screenshots, videos, other pieces, trying to find people to deal with problems or interviews. So the time to find a fire extinguisher, probably best to do it before the roof starts burning. Just a thought. And of course, to this extent, you can also secure support from strategic partners before you even launch your campaign. Okay? If you're dealing with brands, you can get them to give you a Facebook or Twitter mention. If you're dealing with social media influencers, notable members of the online community or people in the specific project field that you're looking at, you can secure their endorsements up front and have them ready to go and ready to launch at specific times throughout the campaign. All of this can be done in advance. So again, don't find yourself caught with your pants down. And pre-launch planning, again, got to allocate adequate time and budget to execute. Classic mistake a lot of people operating a business by day forget is that, oh, by the way, this is going to be a 24/7 thing, and I've still got to operate a business. So a lot of companies find themselves, even when there are 24 people, 36 people, shut down for the duration, especially if there's success, because of all the emails and queries that are coming in. So you've got to make sure you've got team members assigned to maintenance and dealing with this and everything that can arise as an offshoot of the campaign. And of course, drum up initial enthusiasm. Again, don't be afraid to ask people up front. And one of the classic things we hear is on day one, you want to make it look like your campaign is sticking. You want to create a sense of momentum. You want to make it look like you're resonating. So probably a good way to do that would be everybody you can, before you even launch the thing, secure their support. Get as many people to donate as quickly as possible. And you'll watch energy and enthusiasm and donations snowball. It's a great way to kick it off. And of course, don't be afraid to reach out to your fans and let them know you're going to be doing this and the importance of participating. So I won't go too deeply on this. If you Google online, you can find a number of these tips as well. But basically, when it comes to your video pitch, like I was saying, double down on presentation, 2 to 3 minutes, short, doesn't have to be Hollywood grade. On the internet, raw or more organic can be okay. But audio, lighting, it needs to look first rate, your pitch has to be down pat. You got about 10 seconds to grab their attention when it comes to online video. So you better be short, you better be sweet, and that probably gives you just enough time to hit on about 2 to 3 what we call unique sales points. Key features, key benefits, things that make you different. Let B-roll, or video that runs behind the audio track as you're describing a project, screenshots, animations, infographics, let that do the heavy lifting for the complex concepts. Just lead with your project summary, cut to the chase, and answer the key questions that any viewer would have. And of course, be authentic, enthusiastic, and focused. You don't have to be outgoing, but as long as somebody on your team is, you don't have to be the spokesperson or the face of the brand. You do have to have a face, a public face, somebody who essentially functions as a community manager, as a mouthpiece for the project. May not be you again, but you got to have somebody. You got to personalize it, creating that empathy. And as far as the homepage, fairly straightforward and simple. Again, unless they're sophisticated investors looking to do deep due diligence and read through financial statements, especially if you're doing rewards-based, it's the internet. You don't have their attention, you don't have their focus for a lot of time. Cut to the chase, be short and sweet. Arresting headlines, eye-catching images, lead with your summary and description. Keep it simple, silly, the KISS rule. Make sure that you're explaining upfront what it is you have to offer, and let images and videos tell the tale wherever possible. Bullet points, summaries, all these are good. Don't get fancy. Communicate your ideas at a glance, and again, put a personal face in this project. Show the team, show the net results. Don't just describe a project or product, but show the problem and the outcome if you can. And of course, when it comes to rewards, many types of different rewards, but adopt the Google model. Every dollar counts. Google will take my advertising dollars if I got 5 to spend a day, 500 to spend a day, or 5,000, and offer real value at every single reward tier. So starting at the lowest level, and understand that you have to have certain rewards that are going to be product-based or equity-based, and others that are going to be more personal in nature. Unique life experiences, something that they can't get anywhere else. Not everybody is going to pay $10,000 to have lunch with Snoop Dogg because he's endorsed your new iPad case. But it sure is going to help generate some attention. So some of those rewards are there to monetize, and some of them are there from a publicity and marketing standpoint. And understand that you may want to introduce new ones throughout the campaign to keep interest levels high, and listen to fan feedback. We hear from time and time again from project creators whose fans say, I want to see you succeed so badly, I'll help you create original merchandise. I'll press up some t-shirts. I'll put together a benefit. All of these you can offer as rewards. So update, iterate, keep it going in real time. And ultimately, if you want to plot a successful marketing campaign, like I said, identify key influencers up front in your field. Doesn't have to be traditional critics or media members. Could be people with strong Twitter or Facebook followings. Could be thought leaders in your space. Get their endorsements. Leverage social media and press mentions. You're going to be doing outreach activities literally every single day. Know who you're targeting. Don't do the shotgun approach. Understand who can really help you move the needle. And understand that you have to have activities to run for the duration. You're constantly going to be releasing new assets and information about the project or the business. It's not all going to be on day one. And of course, create powerful inflection points to help reignite that buzz. One of the things you can do, certainly you can release assets and information on a specific day and time every Thursday at noon to train people to keep coming back and looking for more details, but also understand when you're going to have big special announcements to go out with as well. And of course, offer surprises, new feature reveals throughout. So again, marathon, not a sprint. Partner strategically wherever you can. Some of the biggest wins can come from people who have strong followings, brands that may be offering similar products and services that you can do special promotions with. Don't be afraid. The worst they can say is no. So leverage every opportunity you've got. And of course, partner strategically. Any creators in the field who've had success before can be powerful endorsers for you. Anybody who can contribute to the campaign, help you reach a broader audience, and stay abreast of the conversation. So you can automate some of your announcements. You can say, okay, if it's going out Thursday at 3, I can automate when that's going to go out on Twitter. What I can't do is predict how people are going to respond to it or help amplify the effect. So I have to be there. I have to be cognizant of what people are saying about it. And if you're going to reach traditional media, try and piggyback on current news, events, industry topics. Unless you've got new research, unless you've got something so earth-shattering, mind-blowing, and singular that it's going to break through the noise, simply announcing new product features may seem fancy to you. but it's not necessarily going to get anybody's attention. So understand that if there's an existing topic in the media that's rising and you have a unique perspective and there's a way to piggyback on that, can provide some big wins. And again, outreach activities should occur each and every single day, all-consuming. This is not a part-time venture. So mission completed. Just go briefly into this. Make sure you've got your backers' information, all your investors. You're probably going to want to migrate them to a dedicated online headquarters. You're not just going to keep them on the crowdfunding sites page for it. You want to have direct one-to-one relationships. Make sure you process all your equity, your handling, reward, fulfillment. Got to keep in running contact. Keep them abreast of progress. Let them know how the project is coming along to reassure them. You're going to hear a lot of people. The more backers you have, the more people who are going to be wanting to check in and find out what's happening. And of course, get started on planning your next campaign. Hopefully, it's been a good experience. So to sum things up, wanted to give the 10 crowdfunding commandments and things that you should do. Again, do your research. Homework is incredibly important. Successful campaigns begin by studying other campaigns. What worked? What failed? 10, 20, 30. Don't be afraid. Sites like the Kickback Machine, these online tools can help you see what connected. Make sure you know your audience and market, so you're not mistiming the messages. You're not going out and trying to activate people who ultimately are not a good target audience for your product or your venture. Plan in advance. Oh boy, oh boy. Please, please do your homework. Strategy. This is very important. And be conservative with your estimates. You may think you're going to reach 50,000 people and raise $200,000. Probably best to knock that down to about 15 to 20% of expectations. I can tell you, having started businesses and brands, okay? Murphy's Law. Just be conservative, and you know what? Plan for the worst, hope for the best. And on the flip side, make sure you've allocated adequate resources to the campaign. You know who's managing which aspects of it. You've stockpiled all your assets and details in advance. And be singular and arresting. Again, it's not just about creating value, it's about communicating it as well. And of course, honor your investors. Make sure they feel well treated. Make sure you're in constant communication, because these are going to be your first port of call when that product that they help fund goes to the pre-order stage. These are going to be the people that you're going to turn to first to get out there helping drive word of mouth. And what you should not do, don't want to overpromise. I bet any attorneys in the room would tell you that, because you never know what's going to happen. So underpromise, overdeliver. That's the cardinal rule when it comes to crowdfunding or any other highly public campaign. And don't underestimate the commitment that's going to be required from you, especially while you're running this campaign, especially on the back of this campaign. Order fulfillment, dealing with equity, dealing with all the concerns that are going to pop up. May seem like an easy way to raise up to $1 million online when equity arrives. But again, it's not a magic bullet, and it doesn't come without its strings attached. And don't find yourself caught unable or unaware. There's no reason that if you haven't done your advanced preparation that you can't deal with any roadblock that comes. Okay? And this comes back to basic principles of change management. It's kind of like a game of football. You're going to get mauled by 300-pound linebackers. Some days you're going to move the ball a little bit forward inch by inch. Other days you're going to be fighting to hold on to those inches. And you will get mauled. Flexibility. That's key. You don't have to plan for every eventuality. You don't have to be psychic to see the future coming. You just have to keep the ball moving down forward and remain flexible enough to deal with any of the challenges that it brings. So if you've got the right team in place, you've got the right communication structure in place, everybody's talking, everybody knows whose sphere of influence is being dealt with, and everybody understands the importance of responding to reality, assessing the situation objectively, not simply letting fear or worries or concerns. We have to be able to see it without bias, and we have to respond to the feedback that's being presented by our fans, by our investors, and by the social media world or the media world at large. That's the best you can hope for. But again, if you're flexible, if you're fluid, when change does come, you can handle it. So just to paint a quick snapshot, what's coming next for crowdfunding, like I said, sites for every single niche, every single industry, every single opportunity, and it's going to be not a flood, but a tidal wave. And it's going to hit next year. It's going to pour into 2014. It's going to spill over. And what you're going to see are crowdfunding opportunities that open up at every level, in every industry, in every single vertical. And like Will was saying, I don't want you to be discouraged by what you see about the economy out there. Because as an entrepreneur, I can tell you there has never been a better time to start a new business, a new venture. You've never had more tools, you've never had more technology, and you've never seen the competitive spectrum this flat. If we had had this 10 years ago when I began out of a back bedroom, I can tell you, we would be miles ahead today. So size, scale, these can be powerful assets, but so can fluidity, flexibility, ability to change on a dime. Any idea you can go out there with, you may find you have to pivot mid-stride. And that's the beauty of crowdfunding, online projects, online tools like this. This is going to help drive funding for business. This is going to help drive online innovation. And ultimately, if you decide to take the wheel and steer, it's going to help lead you down the path to success. So I want to thank you again for the opportunity to speak here today. Thank you.